Hello and welcome, my dear friend. You know in heaven watching you, he isn't waiting for you to fail or stumble. No, heaven has been leaning in. Angels have stood still in awe of you. Why? Because you did what so few souls ever dare to do. You chose the harder path, the path of truth, the path of love, when everything in you could have chosen something easier. And when you made that choice, heaven noticed. Think about this. We've been heard that even angels long to look into the mysteries of God's work in humanity. You are that mystery. Your life has been unfolding in ways that even the heavenly hosts study with amazement. They saw you at your breaking point, and instead of collapsing into bitterness, you kept walking forward. They saw you in your silent sacrifices. Nights you cried in secret, mornings you rose when your body begged you to give up. And they couldn't help but stand in awe. It wasn't the loud, public victories that moved them. It was the private battles, the ones no one applauded, the ones you thought no one saw. But heaven did. The very moments you thought were wasted, those became the moments that made heaven stop and take notice. Let me put it this way. If your life were a symphony, there are certain notes only heaven can hear. Notes so subtle, so sacred, that no audience on earth would ever notice them. But the angels hear them clearly. And when they hear those notes, the sigh you gave instead of shouting back, the kindness you chose instead of vengeance, the faith you clung to in the dark, they are struck with awe. You see, anyone can sing when the stage lights are bright, but to keep your song alive in the midnight hours, that's rare. And that's why heaven was shocked by what you did. You didn't let pain harden you. You didn't let betrayal define you. You didn't let failure become your identity. You kept going, and in a world where so many give in to bitterness, your perseverance is radical. It sends ripples through eternity. This is why angels stood in awe of you, because you became the very sermon they've heard for centuries, but now lived out in flesh and blood. You became the living testimony of God's grace. You are what it looks like when someone chooses light, even when surrounded by darkness. And maybe you don't see yourself that way. Maybe you're still caught up in the ordinary details of life. The bills, the disappointments, the routines. But in the spirit, your ordinary moments have been extraordinary. Every quiet act of integrity has been echoing in heaven's halls like thunder. Think about the last time you could have retaliated, but instead released it. The last time you could have spoken words that cut, but instead you chose silence. The last time you could have compromised, but instead you held your ground. Each one of those decisions may have felt small, but heaven saw them as monumental. And here's the truth. Those choices changed you. They made you into someone even you don't fully recognize yet. Stronger, wiser, sharper, more radiant. You may not feel it all the time, but in the spirit, you are glowing. Your resilience has turned into a light so unmistakable that it unsettles even those who don't understand you. Heaven is not shocked because you're perfect. Heaven is shocked because you kept saying yes when every part of you had reasons to say no. That's what makes you rare. That's what makes you chosen. Angels are not easily impressed. They've seen wonders beyond imagination, light colliding with darkness, time bending to God's command. Yet still, they pause when they see you, because while they've seen miracles, they've also seen humanity break under the weight of despair. They've seen people curse God when storms hit, but then they see you, still holding on, still loving, still choosing to walk in the direction of faith. And that, my friend, is a miracle in itself. So don't underestimate what you've done. Don't minimize the weight of your obedience. Heaven has already recorded it. Heaven has already celebrated it. And soon the world will feel the results of it. This means the choices you made in silence are about to bring forth fruit in public. It means the integrity that felt invisible is about to become undeniable. You became a soul that refused to quit, a vessel that kept pouring even when empty, a fighter that carried scars and still chose peace. That is not ordinary. That is not overlooked. That is heavenly. My dear friend, Here is what you need to remember. You are already walking in a kind of blessing that cannot be taken back. God's hand has been on your life from the very beginning, and no matter how overlooked you felt, His love has never once loosened its grip on you. Sometimes we think blessings only arrive with noise, with sudden wealth, with applause, with open doors that everyone can see. But the truth is, you've been blessed all along. Every breath you still carry, every moment you didn't quit, every piece of light you held onto when darkness tried to take it from you, that was blessing. That was proof that God's love has never left you. It's easy to forget that, because the world trains us to measure blessings in visible ways. But God's blessings are often seeds before they are harvests. You've been walking with seeds of favor inside of you for years, and now the soil around you is shifting. The conditions are changing. What was hidden under the ground is about to push through the surface. One morning, and it may come sooner than you think, you're going to wake up and feel it. The air will be different. Not because the world suddenly decided to value you, but because Earth will finally catch up to what heaven has already known. The alignment you've carried inside is about to reflect on the outside. It won't just be in one area. That's the power of divine favor. It doesn't stay in one lane. It begins to echo across dimensions of your life. Where you once felt pressed, you'll feel space. Where you once felt resistance, you'll feel ease. It doesn't mean life becomes free of challenges. It means the challenges no longer drain you the way they used to, because grace is carrying what once felt impossible. If you remain still a little longer than you used to, you will begin to see it. God's favor showing up in conversations you didn't expect, in opportunities that land in your hands without you having to fight for them, in the way peace starts filling rooms where you once only felt tension. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That is the reward of endurance. That is the return on years of quiet obedience. And here's what's powerful. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to beg for it. Favor is not earned like wages. It is inherited like breath. You already carry it. You are already marked by it. But when that favor begins to show, it unsettles people. Don't be surprised when those who once ignored you now watch you closely. Don't be surprised if some can't explain why they feel something different when you walk into the room. What they're sensing is not just you, it's the weight of heaven's approval finally manifesting on earth. Because all the times they doubted you, all the times they dismissed you, all the times they assumed you were finished, they had no idea what God was doing underneath the surface. They saw delay, but heaven saw development. They saw quiet, but heaven saw preparation. And now they will see what heaven has always seen. My dear friend, you are not waiting for God to love you. He already does. You are not waiting for proof of His goodness. You are living proof. The blessing is not on its way as if you have to earn it. The blessing is already here, waiting for the world to catch up with what you carry. Picture it. A tree doesn't stop being a tree when winter strips its leaves. It is still alive, still rooted, still growing in unseen ways. The season doesn't change its identity. It only hides what is inevitable. In the same way, nothing you've lost has stolen your design. The roots have been deepening. The life inside you has been multiplying. And now the season is shifting, and fruit is inevitable. Someday soon you'll realize you don't have to strain so much. You'll notice that what once drained you no longer holds the same power. You'll look around and see doors opening, not because you forced them, but because they were always yours. Earth is catching up with heaven, and when that moment comes, don't shrink from it. Don't second-guess it. Receive it with confidence, because every tear, every prayer, every act of love that went unseen was a deposit in eternity, and eternity is not bankrupt. Heaven always pays back with interest. So remain still, hold steady, not passive, but anchored. Watch what happens when God's favor begins to move through every dimension of your life. Health, relationships, finances, peace of mind, clarity of purpose, joy that doesn't ask permission to enter your days. It all begins to align, not because you manipulated it, but because you endured until the soil was ready. And here is the final truth. When you step into this season, you will not just feel different, you will be different, because God's love has been shaping you the whole time. My dear friend, that time is closer than you think. One day soon you will wake up and everything around you will feel different, because it won't just be you holding faith quietly inside anymore. It will be the world catching up with what heaven has declared about you all along. And when that happens, it won't just be your breakthrough. It will be heaven's confirmation, echoing into every corner of your life. You were blessed all along. You were loved all along. You were never forgotten. And before we finish, I want to share something with you. As a musician, I've started a second channel, Simplified Serenity, with soaking worship instrumentals for prayer, stillness, and deep rest. If you felt peace here today, take it with you into your own quiet time with God. The link's in the description. I'd love to see you there. Hello and welcome, my dear friend. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when heaven itself stops deliberating. The case against you, the doubts, the whispers, the trials, the endless delays, all of it reaches a conclusion. And when God closes the case, no one can reopen it. The verdict has already been spoken over your life. Victory. This isn't about something you earned through perfection. It's about something that was written into the record of eternity before you even took your first breath. God didn't wait until you proved yourself to make a decision about you. Long before you fell, long before you stumbled, long before you questioned your own worth, He had already declared you His. That's why some battles felt so unfair. It's not that you were cursed, it's not that you were abandoned, it's that your life was under the weight of a decision too great to fit neatly into society's surface-level measures of success. The truth is, when God chooses someone, He chooses them completely. And with that choice comes a journey that does not make sense to the outside world. To them, it looks like you're losing ground. To them, it looks like delays, denials, detours. But in the courts of heaven, it is all evidence building toward a verdict already written. You cannot be defeated. Think about this. If your life were a trial, the accuser would bring forward every failure. He would try to convince heaven, but before the enemy could even finish his argument, God would bang the gavel. The case would be closed. And His ruling isn't based on your weakness. It's based on His purpose. That's why you're still here. That's why you didn't collapse under the weight of despair, even when you felt broken beyond repair. That's why you're quiet. Yes, your hidden obedience, your willingness to keep showing up when no one saw, those things carried eternal weight. You thought those moments went unnoticed, but heaven was taking notes. And the verdict didn't come down in whispers. It was loud, it was final, it was written across eternity. Victory belongs to you. That's why the days have felt heavy. That's why the struggle didn't let up when you thought it should, because you weren't being crushed, you were being carved. God was chiseling away everything that could be used as evidence against you. Every hardship was turned into testimony. Every tear was sealed as proof that even in fire, you refused to surrender your light. Listen to me. You are not waiting for God to make up His mind about you. He already decided. You are not waiting for destiny to unfold as if it might change direction tomorrow. Destiny was written in ink that cannot be erased. You see, society looks at outcomes. Heaven looks at endurance. Society says blessing is measured by wealth, spotlight, and ease. Heaven says blessing is carrying light when it would have been easier to curse the darkness. And that's why what looked like a curse has been a blessing all along. From the outside, it looked like endless delay. On the inside, God was sealing your case with evidence that would silence every accusation. This is why you've been different, why you couldn't just blend in, why you couldn't settle for surface-level desires when your soul knew you were carrying something eternal. To some, your path looked like punishment. To others, it looked like failure. But in truth, your path has been the preparation of a vessel that God Himself marked as an example on this earth. And here's the most powerful part. When heaven rules in your favor, earth has no choice but to catch up. The alignment that already exists in the spirit will soon manifest in the physical. What God closed in eternity, no one can reopen in time. So if you've been wondering why life has felt like one long trial, let this be your confirmation. The trial is over. The case is closed. The verdict is in victory. And soon you will see what that means, not just in your spirit, but in your reality. When God looks at you, He doesn't see the version of you that stumbled. He doesn't define you by the nights you broke down or the mistakes you regret. He sees the verdict He already declared: chosen, victorious, sealed. That's why your perspective matters so much right now. If you only look at your life through the lens of the world, you'll call your blessing a burden. You'll mislabel your preparation as punishment. You'll see your uniqueness as isolation. But if you look at your life through the lens of heaven, through the way God sees you, you'll begin to recognize how glorious it is to be marked in heaven. Because here's the truth: you are not ordinary. You never were. If you were, your journey would have looked ordinary. But chosen vessels are sculpted differently. You carry weight others cannot carry. You walk paths others could not survive. And that's not because God delights in your pain, it's because God trusts you with His light. Right now, in this very moment, you have access to that truth. You don't have to wait until the world validates you to realize how extraordinary your life is. You don't have to wait until doors open or people applaud you. You can look into your own story, the tears you've survived, the resilience you've shown, the faith you kept when everything screamed at you to quit, and see the hand of God etched into every line. This is why heaven celebrated you long before earth understood you. They saw how you kept walking when the weight tried to bury you. They saw how you kept loving when betrayal tried to harden you. They saw how you kept trusting when silence tried to convince you nothing was working. And now, my dear friend, it's time for you to see yourself that way too. The blessing of being chosen isn't just about the future reward, it's about the honor of being living proof right now. Proof that God still moves through ordinary flesh and blood. Proof that His strength can be seen in weakness. Proof that endurance can shine brighter than talent or charm. When you start to see yourself as God sees you, your present transforms. The weight doesn't disappear, but it stops feeling like a chain and starts feeling like a crown. The struggles don't vanish, but you realize they are evidence of a verdict that cannot be overturned. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more you see yourself as chosen, the more your reality begins to reflect it. Doors begin to respond to your presence. Relationships begin to shift around your light. Opportunities find their way to you without the old struggle, because the atmosphere around you has caught up to what heaven already declared. It doesn't stop there. The more you embody the truth of who you already are, the more the future unfolds in ways that confirm it. The world begins to see what God has always seen. The identity you carried quietly in your spirit begins to manifest loudly in your reality. Imagine this: the you God sees, steady, radiant, victorious, unshakable, is not a distant version waiting 10 years from now. That you already exists in heaven's record, and the moment you align your eyes with His, that version begins to take shape here on earth. This is why you were never really losing, even when it looked like loss. The setbacks, the heartbreaks, the disappointments, they weren't erasing you, they were chiseling you. They were revealing the version of you that God already decided would walk this earth. And here's the part that changes everything. When you step fully into that identity, when you carry yourself as the one whose case is closed and whose verdict is victory, you not only change your own life, you change lives around you. You become the sermon heaven has been echoing for ages, not through words alone, but through existence itself. People will feel it in your presence. They won't always know why they're drawn to you, but it will be because you embody what they've only heard about. Resilience that doesn't break, love that doesn't run dry, light that refuses to fade. And in the future, when you look back, you will see it clearly. You'll realize that every trial was not just survived, it was transformed into glory. You'll see that God's vision of you was never a dream, it was always the truest reality. You simply had to grow into it. So don't wait to celebrate who you are. Don't postpone joy until tomorrow. Right now, in this moment, heaven is already celebrating you. The verdict is already sealed. Victory already belongs to you. And the more you live from that truth today, the faster your future aligns with it. My dear friend, lift your head. Stop rehearsing the case that God already closed. Stop replaying the evidence that was already thrown out. The gavel has fallen, the ruling is final. You are chosen. You are victorious. You are God's living example on this earth. And when you carry that reality, not just in your spirit, but in the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you live, the world around you will have no choice but to recognize what heaven already declared. The case is closed. Victory was the verdict, and you are the proof. And before we finish, I want to share something with you. As a musician, I've started a second channel, Simplified Serenity, with soaking worship instrumentals for prayer, stillness, and deep rest. If you felt peace here today, take it with you into your own quiet time with God. The link's in the description. I'd love to see you there. Hello and welcome, my dear friend. Before we go anywhere, do me one favor. Notice your shoulders. Notice your breath. Feel how your body has been bracing all day against a world that asks for pieces of you it did not earn. Here's the truth you came for. You're not difficult. You're discerning. And the reason too many people feel like static against your skin is because God tuned you to a signal most don't carry yet. Picture this. You walk into a room like a perfectly tuned piano placed beside a crowd of out-of-tune instruments. Nothing is wrong with the piano. Its purity just reveals the noise. That's you. You don't chase the wrong song. Your spirit refuses it. You wondered for years, why do I feel heavy after simple conversations? Why do my lungs tighten in certain places? Why do I need to step outside just to breathe? Listen. Your body has been the faithful messenger. It's telling you what your spirit already knows. Your energy is sacred, and heaven has been guarding it. Some of you learned to call that protection loneliness. Some of you tried to drag yourselves back into rooms that made your soul flicker. You thought endurance was virtue, but endurance without discernment is erosion. And you, chosen one, were never born to erode. There is a pattern God uses with those he trusts with real weight. Before expansion, he narrows your circle. Before revealing, he refines. Before sending you into the crowd, he trains your ears to recognize his whisper beneath the noise. That narrowing hurts. It feels like loss, like delay, like being passed over. It is none of those things. It is heaven placing velvet ropes around what is rare. Take a breath. Feel how your nervous system softens when I say this. It's not that people are bad, it's that your assignment is exact. Precision requires atmosphere. Oil won't mix with water, not because water is evil, but because the formula is different. Your calling has a formula. Think about the places you left and couldn't explain why. The job that looked perfect but made your chest tight. The friend group that loved the version of you who kept dimming your own forecast of the soul's weather. The dates where your spirit went quiet, although the conversation was fine on paper. Heaven was editing. Heaven has an eye for lighting. I need you to hear this with your whole being. Sensitivity is not fragility. Sensitivity is instrumentation. It's night vision in a world that prefers fluorescent distractions. It's the gift that lets you read the room without a single word spoken. Yes, it means you'll step out early sometimes. Yes, it means you'll disappoint people who wanted easy access to you. But access is not love. Alignment is. Crowds don't simply take your time, they tax your clarity. Too many voices create fog. And fog makes you doubt what you already know. That doubt is expensive. It costs you mornings you could have moved in power, and nights you could have slept in peace. So God, who knows your margins better than you do, has been keeping your margins protected. You thought the closed doors meant rejection. They were actually recalibration. You thought the slow season was punishment. It was a clean room where heaven sterilized your purpose from contamination. Opinions, projections, envies, and expectations that had nothing to do with the blueprint in your spirit. And about that blueprint, it keeps pulling you towards stillness. Notice how your best directions arrive in quiet places, on a walk at dusk, in the car after everyone's gotten out, in the shower when the day finally lets go. Notice how your spirit starts arranging furniture inside you when the noise dies down. That is not your imagination. That is your command center coming online. Here's what actually happens when you're around too many people for too long. Your spirit begins scanning micro-expressions, unspoken motives, grief that has nowhere to go, the subtle angle of a compliment that wasn't. It's not paranoia, it's pattern recognition. After a while, your circuitry overheats. You think you're being antisocial, but really, you're an overqualified lighthouse trying to run in a thunderstorm with every ship flashing SOS. Lighthouses don't sprint, they stand, they shine. The ships adjust. I want to free you from an old lie. If I was stronger, I could handle everyone. Strength isn't carrying 10 conversations that don't carry you back. Strength is knowing which table dilutes your anointing and getting up, kindly, cleanly, without a speech. Your life is moving under a different clock. Divine timing looks slow to impatient eyes, but to trained eyes it's choreography. The pauses are placements. The silences are signal checks. The sudden exits are fire drills that taught you where the real exits are. And every time you honored that nudge to leave early, heaven wrote down, stewardship passed. So here is your reframe. You are not bad with people. You are excellent with purpose. You're not closed off. You are curated. And curation is what museums do with priceless art, not what fragile people do with fear. Let's lean in even closer, because the deeper truth is this. Every moment you've been pulled away from the crowd has been less about rejection and more about refinement. You've noticed it. After gatherings, even the harmless ones, you don't just walk away tired, you walk away altered. Something lingers on you that isn't yours. The sighs people never breathed out, the envy tucked beneath their compliments, the sadness behind their laughter. It tries to cling. But dear chosen one, what others call oversensitivity is heaven's alarm system inside you. You are not broken for feeling too much. You are wired for discernment. This is why God has been so protective with your placement. Why He allowed doors to close without explanation. Why conversations dried up that once flowed easily. Every separation, even the ones that stung, was a cleansing, a recalibration. Because the assignment on your life cannot survive constant contamination. Think of it like this. A flame surrounded by too much wind doesn't grow, it flickers out. But a flame sheltered in the right space becomes a fire that can't be ignored. That is what God has been doing with you, cupping His hands around your light until it's strong enough to withstand any weather. And this explains why certain rooms feel heavy to you. You don't need to hear the gossip to know it's there. You don't need someone to confess envy to feel it pressing against your chest. Your spirit is fluent in languages most people haven't learned yet. And when your frequency meets theirs, the dissonance tells you everything you need to know. Oil and water never hated each other. They just weren't designed to mix. You have tried to explain this to others before. They've told you you're being dramatic, too guarded, too picky. But what they call picky, heaven calls precise. What they see as distance is actually preservation, because not everyone can sit that close to the soundboard of your soul. And let's be honest, you've wrestled with it. Nights where you wondered, am I isolating myself? Am I sabotaging connection? But then, in the quiet, you feel it. The stillness settles in like an answer. In solitude, your vision sharpens, your creativity wakes up, and your spirit exhales. That peace has always been the proof. Loneliness scratches at you, but solitude strengthens you. You know the difference. There is something else happening too. The more you awaken, the more separation becomes inevitable. It's not that you've suddenly become less relatable, it's that the gap between your frequency and the world's has grown wider. You have been purified in ways you don't even fully recognize yet. And purity, by design, cannot blend with chaos without cost. So instead of asking, why can't I be around too many people? Start asking, why has God chosen to shield me from them? The question shifts everything. Because if you had stayed in certain circles, your spirit would have been dulled by their noise. And dulled spirits don't break curses. Dull spirits don't carry fire. Remember this, before God reveals his chosen ones, he always hides them like Moses in the desert. What feels like isolation is the oldest pattern of preparation. The wilderness is where leaders are carved. And you have been walking that wilderness path. Every time you thought life passed you by, heaven was actually pulling you aside. Not because you couldn't handle people, but because people couldn't handle what you carry. Your sensitivity is the very evidence that your spirit is alive. It's the radar that lets you detect storms before they arrive. It's the inner compass that points you back to stillness when your soul begins to wander. And yes, it will cost you. It will cost you crowded rooms. It will cost you the illusion of belonging. But it will return to you clarity, peace, and an unshakable alignment with the voice of God. So the next time you feel that weight pressing on you in a room, remember, it's not weakness, it's discernment. The next time you sense yourself pulling away, remember, you are not retreating, you are realigning. And the next time someone wonders why you don't come around as much, know this, you were never designed to dilute yourself for access. You were designed to be preserved for impact. Chosen one, your circle will be smaller, your path will be narrower, but your reach, when the time comes, will be vast. Because God doesn't hide treasures to waste them. He hides them to unveil them at the exact moment the world is ready. And when that unveiling happens, you won't be drained by the wrong rooms anymore. You'll be sent into the right ones, places where your sensitivity won't be a burden, but a blessing. Where your presence won't feel like too much, but exactly what was missing. Until then, trust the velvet ropes, trust the edits, trust the pauses. Heaven knows the weight you carry, and heaven has been shielding it. Shielding you, not to limit your life, but to save it for its appointed hour. You are not antisocial, you are anointed. You are not closed off, you are consecrated. And that, my dear friend, is why too many people cannot come near you. And before we finish, I want to share something with you. As a musician, I've started a second channel, Simplified Serenity, with soaking worship instrumentals for prayer, stillness, and deep rest. If you felt peace here today, take it with you into your own quiet time with God. The link's in the description. I'd love to see you there. Hello and welcome, my dear friend. There are ancient threads woven into your life that you didn't choose, but you were born to untangle them. Long before your first breath, before anyone spoke your name, a decision was made in heaven. You would be the one to break what no one else could. That's why your path has felt heavier than most. That's why certain battles clung to your family for generations, repeating like a broken record. Addiction, fear, shame, poverty, broken relationships, silence. Maybe you thought you were just unlucky, but the truth is you were not unlucky. You were marked to be different, marked to be the ending of what was never meant to continue, marked to end the curse in your bloodline. And living in the middle of that curse was not easy. Look back for a moment, not at the wins, but at the patterns. Do you see it? The same shadows chasing those before you, the same cycles swallowing people you loved, the same chains passed down like an inheritance no one wanted. And maybe you've asked yourself, why me? Why do I feel the weight of all of this on my shoulders? Here's why. Heaven trusted you with it. No, that wasn't meant to break you. It was because you have the strength to do what no one before you could. Think of a glass jar filled with cracks. Year after year, it's glued together, but never fully healed. Every generation passes it on, hoping it will hold just a little longer. And then comes you, not with glue, but with fire. Fire that doesn't patch cracks, but melts the jar down and reshapes it into something whole, something unbreakable. That's what your life is doing in your bloodline. And I know it hasn't been easy. You've probably felt isolated, misunderstood, even rejected by those closest to you. But understand this, when you carry the assignment of a chain breaker, you will rarely fit the mold of those who settled for survival. You weren't made to keep the cycle running. You were made to stop it cold. That's why certain doors slammed in your face. That's why you outgrew environments faster than others. That's why people tried to make you small, because even they could sense the weight you carry. But listen carefully. Their rejection was confirmation of your role. Because liberators don't walk in comfort. They walk in disruption. Your very existence disturbs the powers that wanted your bloodline silent, hidden, stuck. Have you noticed how strangers confess things to you they've never told anyone? How people sometimes can't explain why they're drawn to your presence or unsettled by it? That's not coincidence. That's the authority of a bloodline restorer. Spirit recognizes spirit. Chains recognize fire. And the fire on your life, it refuses to let generational patterns stay comfortable. Let this sink in. You are not carrying generational pain because you were weak. You're carrying it because you're strong enough to burn it. You are the one heaven trusted to say, "The curse ends here. With me, it doesn't pass one step further." Think about it. If the curse had been stronger than your calling, you wouldn't be here right now listening to this. You would have folded under the same weight that crushed others before you. But you didn't. You rose. You kept moving. You carried dreams no one around you understood. You chose a different path when settling would have been easier. That's not survival. That's prophecy. And maybe you still feel the scars, the heaviness, the frustration of carrying what doesn't belong to you. But even those scars are proof that you've already destroyed things you don't even realize yet. The fact that you're alive, breathing, standing here, listening, means curses have already failed against you. There are prayers your ancestors whispered but never lived to see answered. Cries they sent up in silence, hoping someone after them would be free. Those prayers landed on you. You are the answer. You are the fulfillment. You are the miracle they longed for, and heaven is echoing this truth into your spirit right now. You were born to break every curse in your bloodline, not by force, not by perfection, but by simply walking in the truth of who you are. Chosen, marked, set apart. This is why your life has never followed the script of those before you, because your story isn't a repeat. Your story is a reset. But here's the thing, my dear friend, ending generational cycles doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like choosing differently when everyone else repeated the same mistake. Sometimes it's as simple as refusing to hand down the same pain you were handed. Maybe you refused to let bitterness be your language, even when betrayal ran deep in your family. That's dismantling a curse. Maybe you decided to treat your children, your family, or your friends with tenderness when all you knew was harshness. That's dismantling a curse. Maybe you walked away from an addiction when everyone said it would swallow you too. That's dismantling a curse. You've been doing it without even realizing it. Every choice you made to stop history from repeating has been an act of rebellion against the chains on your bloodline. And here's the part you need to hear. Breaking chains doesn't just stop destruction, it births blessing. Every wall you tear down creates a doorway for the ones after you. Your loved ones, your children, your community, the people connected to you. They will walk through gates you kicked open. Picture this, a runner carrying a torch through the dark, and behind them, the path lights up. That's you. You're not just surviving your journey, you're illuminating the ground for those who will never have to stumble the way you did. That's why the fight has felt so unfair, because it wasn't just your life at stake. Every victory you've had in private has been rewriting what's possible for your entire line. You've been shouldering battles that were centuries old, and you've been winning. And let's be honest, there were moments you thought you wouldn't make it. Times you felt the weight of despair pressing down, whispering, "It's too much. You can't do this. Just give up." But even in those moments, something in you refused to quit. That something wasn't random. It was the evidence of your calling. Because lineage shifters may bend, but they don't break. Listen closely. You are not weak for feeling the weight. You are strong for carrying it this far. You are not cursed because the fight has been hard. You are chosen because you are the only one strong enough to win it. And here's the shift. This isn't only about what you're ending. It's about what you're beginning. Curses end with you, but blessings start with you too. Think of soil that has been dry and barren for generations. And then one day someone plants a seed. That seed doesn't just grow for the planter, it transforms the ground itself. Suddenly, what was once called barren is now fertile. That's you. You've shifted the very soil of your bloodline. And maybe people around you don't recognize it yet. Maybe they still see you as ordinary, or still judge you by your past. But heaven doesn't see you that way. Heaven sees the one who said, "Enough." The one who stood up to generational patterns and said, "It ends here." This is why your life is so disruptive. Why doors opened for others but seemed locked for you. Why you were set apart, even when it hurt. You've been in training for something larger than yourself. Now, the season is shifting. The battles that once consumed you are losing their grip. The chains you thought would never fall off have already started breaking. You can feel it. The air is lighter, the weight is shifting. This isn't coincidence, it's fulfillment. Because when heaven declares curse breaker, hell has no choice but to bow. And I want you to imagine this with me. The next time you walk into a room, you're not just walking in as yourself. You're walking in with the prayers of your ancestors behind you. You're walking in carrying victories they never lived to see. You're walking in as the proof that cycles can end and something new can begin. People may not understand it, some may even resist it, but they will feel it. They will feel the authority you carry, the freedom in your presence, the shift in your words. Because you are not just a person, you are a turning point. You are the place where destruction stopped and destiny started. So when you hear the whispers of doubt again, when life tries to convince you that you're still bound, remember this truth. Chains don't end quietly. They end with resistance. And resistance always comes right before breakthrough. You've already survived what was designed to destroy you. That means the curse is broken. That means the story has changed. That means the future is different because of you. Take a deep breath right now and let this settle in your spirit. You are the curse breaker of your generation. Not because you're flawless, not because you're the loudest, but because God saw something in you strong enough to hold the fire, brave enough to confront the storm, and faithful enough to rewrite a bloodline's destiny. This is your inheritance. And soon, the world will not only see the battles you've survived, they'll see the blessings you've birthed. So walk forward in that truth, because history won't remember you as the one who carried the curse. History will remember you as the one who broke it forever. And before we finish, I want to share something with you. As a musician, I've started a second channel, Simplified Serenity, with soaking worship instrumentals for prayer, stillness, and deep rest. If you felt peace here today, take it with you into your own quiet time with God. The link's in the description. I'd love to see you there. Hello and welcome, my dear friend. There's something you need to hear right now, and it won't wait for later. Heaven didn't save this for someday. It was written for today. This is a love letter from God, and the first thing it tells you is this: nothing good you've done has gone unseen. Think about that. Every single time you chose patience when frustration was boiling, every single time you walked away from bitterness when revenge would have been louder, every single time you carried pain quietly but still found room to offer kindness to someone else, heaven noticed. even when nobody thanked you, even when nobody clapped for you, even when people assumed you were just fine because you didn't complain out loud. God was keeping track. That's why you're still standing. You see, the world often notices performance. They applaud strength when it looks polished, when it's packaged neatly. But God honors truth. The nights you wrestled with doubt and still got up the next morning. The days you didn't feel holy, but you stayed honest. The moments you held your tongue, not because you didn't have something to say, but because peace mattered more than proving yourself. That's real strength. That's what built the foundation under your feet. And maybe you didn't hear it when you needed it most. Maybe as a child you weren't affirmed when you tried your hardest. Maybe as an adult you weren't celebrated when you resisted old cycles. Maybe when you gave your last ounce of energy, all you got in return was silence. But silence on earth doesn't mean silence in heaven. God kept count. And now, He's making sure you understand. What you carried, what you endured, what you chose in private, it mattered. The delays weren't denial. The pruning wasn't punishment. It was preparation. And preparation always has an unveiling. That unveiling is beginning now. For too long, some people looked at your life and assumed you were forgotten. They mistook hiddenness for abandonment. They thought the absence of applause meant the absence of purpose. But God is about to shock them, because what's coming next doesn't read like failure. It reads like favor. The same situations that looked like setbacks will now be revealed as setups. The same paths that felt blocked are going to open, not because you forced them, but because you became ready. And that's the part you need to let sink in. You're not stepping into this next chapter because you finally performed well enough. You're stepping into it because you remained true. You didn't abandon your soul to blend in with people who settled. You didn't trade your peace for belonging. You didn't hand over your light just to keep relationships that couldn't handle its brightness. Even when you doubted yourself, God never doubted you. He knew what He placed in you. Eyes that see deeper than most. A heart that feels further than most. A spirit that gets back up when most would stay down. That's what you've been cultivating in the quiet. And now, that quiet strength is about to echo louder than your trials. It won't just be seen in blessings, it will be felt in your presence. People won't even be able to explain it, but something about you will carry weight. The kind of weight that only comes from surviving storms without becoming what tried to destroy you. And here's the beauty. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to list your scars for people to respect your strength. You don't owe anyone the long version of how you got here. God saw it. That's enough. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about recognition. Not the shallow kind that fades when people get distracted, but the recognition that comes from heaven echoing through your life. The recognition that says, this one never quit. This one carried integrity when no one was watching. This one will be honored openly for what was chosen faithfully in secret. That's where you stand now, on the edge of a season that looks nothing like the one before it. A season where peace doesn't have to be fought for daily, it begins to flow. A season where doors don't creak open halfway, they swing wide. A season where love doesn't have to be begged for, it comes freely, because God has already stamped you as worthy of it. And maybe you're not used to that. Maybe ease feels foreign after years of survival. Maybe joy feels strange on a tongue that got used to endurance. That's okay. It's supposed to feel new, because it is new. Not because time passed, but because alignment finally caught up with identity. Because you stopped playing small to make others comfortable. Because you decided that your soul was worth protecting, even if that meant walking alone for a while. And heaven is answering that decision now. My dear friend, what you're stepping into now is not hidden work anymore. It's the season where what was cultivated in silence begins to speak for itself. There is a difference between someone who shines because they were placed in the spotlight and someone who shines because their light could not be dimmed even in the shadows. You are the second, and that is why your presence will feel undeniable in the days ahead. People may not be able to explain it, but they will feel it. They'll feel the weight of endurance that didn't collapse. They'll feel the purity of decisions that cost you everything but didn't corrupt you. They'll feel the clarity of someone who no longer needs validation to prove value. That kind of atmosphere cannot be manufactured. It can only be forged. And you, whether you've realized it or not, have been forged. Not in comfort, not in applause, but in the furnace of not yet, in the long stretch of waiting, in the quiet places where you had every reason to give up, but didn't. That is why God is making sure your story turns now. Because people thought if they ignored you long enough, the vision inside you would shrivel. But the truth is this: nothing planted by God can be suffocated by neglect. And now, the same people who misjudged you will have to witness what God has been building all along. Not because you need their approval, not because you need revenge, but because God has chosen to make your life undeniable. Think about it. The very places that rejected you will soon be confronted with the evidence of why you were set apart. The very people who doubted your future will have to stand in the reality of it. The same voices that said you were done will have to swallow the sight of you rising. And this isn't petty. This is divine order. This is how heaven proves a point. Because when God invests in someone, He doesn't let the harvest remain hidden forever. And your harvest is due. You've been living as though your life was on pause, but what you didn't see was that heaven was still writing, still aligning, still setting things in place for a reveal that would make sense only in its timing. And now that timing has come. The recognition you're about to walk in won't come from striving. It won't come from exhausting yourself to be seen. It will come from the natural gravity of what you've become. Your integrity has weight. Your resilience has weight. Your obedience has weight. And weight is felt before it's explained. So don't be surprised when people start asking what changed. Don't be surprised when old rooms suddenly treat you differently. Don't be surprised when even strangers sense something holy on your life and can't quite put it into words. That's not coincidence. That's God's fingerprint on you. And here's the part that may shake you. The blessings arriving now are not random favors. They are responses, direct responses to seeds you planted when you thought nothing was growing. Every decision to keep faith, every refusal to settle, every moment you carried truth in secret, those were seeds. And God is a God who does not overlook seed. So this isn't luck. This isn't chance. This is justice. Justice for the nights you endured without answers. Justice for the sacrifices no one honored. Justice for the pain you carried without letting it poison you. And when justice arrives, it doesn't tiptoe, it announces itself. But no, the shift isn't just external, it's internal. You've changed, and everything around you has no choice but to adjust to that change. So let me say this clearly. You are not walking into another season of surviving. You are walking into a season of flourishing, of thriving, of becoming evidence that God never forgets His own. And maybe that still feels strange. Maybe part of you is waiting for the other shoe to drop, because for so long good things came with a hidden price. But hear me, that is not the story anymore. What's coming now is not counterfeit blessing. It's covenant blessing. The kind that doesn't drain you but sustains you. The kind that doesn't collapse under pressure but grows stronger. The kind that doesn't vanish the moment someone's opinion shifts, because it was never built on their opinion in the first place. This is built on God's remembrance of you. So when the recognition comes, don't flinch. Don't question if you deserve it. Don't shrink back out of old habits of unworthiness. Stand in it, because this is what you built in silence. This is what you earned when no one was watching. This is what you carried when quitting was easier. And let them wonder. Let them whisper. Let them try to explain it away. They can't erase what God Himself is putting on display. This is the season where your hiddenness becomes your headline, not to prove them wrong, but to prove God right. And before we finish, I want to share something with you. As a musician, I've started a second channel, simplified serenity, with soaking worship instrumentals for prayer, stillness, and deep rest. If you felt peace here today, take it with you into your own quiet time with God. The link's in the description. I'd love to see you there. Hello and welcome, my dear friend. Destiny carried you to this exact moment because today is the first time this truth doesn't just sound good. It belongs to you. You've been living like someone still in a fight, shoulders tense, heart guarded, mind running through worst-case scenarios before you can even enjoy the quiet. It's what happens when the world has taught you to always expect the next hit. But heaven wants you to hear this now. The fight that tried to define you has already been settled. The verdict is in. The battle is over. Now it's time to rest. And I know that might sound strange at first, because your body still remembers the tension. Your spirit still carries some of the bruises. Your mind still replays scenes of how hard it was just to make it here. But victory isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the undeniable truth that you outlasted what was designed to erase you. And here you are. That alone is proof. The hardest part is already behind you. Think back for a moment. There were nights you stayed awake, rehearsing every reason to quit. There were days you went through the motions, not sure if you could do it again tomorrow. And yet, tomorrow kept coming, and so did you. That kind of endurance isn't natural. It's supernatural. It wasn't willpower that kept you. It was preservation, divine preservation. Because God wasn't going to let the weight break you when the story wasn't finished. And now heaven has made the announcement, it's done. The war that dragged through years, through cycles, through your bloodline even, has met its conclusion. This is why your spirit has been feeling different lately, even if you can't put words to it. Why the same fears don't stick the way they used to. Why the same temptations don't pull you under the way they once did. Why peace has been creeping in, even if chaos still tries to knock at your door. Because something shifted, something closed. And maybe even you don't see it yet. Maybe you've gotten so used to life being heavy. Maybe until now, you never allowed yourself to rest peacefully in the middle of constant striving. And here's the thing, when heaven announces a victory, it doesn't matter if earth has caught up to it yet. God's decree always outruns human recognition. That means your victory is already recorded, already stamped, already sealed, even before it's fully visible. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. You've crossed the line you thought would finish you. And because of that, you can rest differently now. Not the restless kind of rest where you're bracing for the next storm, but the deep exhale that comes when you realize it's over. It really is over. This doesn't mean you won't face challenges again. Life has its tests, but the particular war that chased you, the one that tried to swallow your identity whole, that battle has no authority anymore. You outlasted it. And that is why this moment matters so much. Because you're not just stepping into another season, you're stepping into a season defined by recognition. Recognition from heaven first. That you stayed the course, you didn't fold, you carried truth when it would have been easier to abandon it. And recognition on earth will have no choice but to follow. Not because you suddenly became worthy of them, you always were, but because the timing finally caught up with your truth. This is the part I don't want you to miss. The way you see yourself has to shift too. You don't need to keep rehearsing the fight that's already over. You don't need to keep wearing armor that's already done its job. And you don't have to move through life like it's always a threat, no matter what the world tried to teach you. You're allowed to lay some things down now. You're allowed to breathe differently now. You're allowed to walk with an ease that doesn't apologize for itself, even if comfort feels foreign after years of survival, because God is not asking you to prove that you survived. He's inviting you to live like someone who already did, and the beauty of that, it changes everything. It changes how you pray, less from desperation, more from confidence. It changes how you love, less from fear of loss, more from fullness. It changes how you carry yourself, less from striving, more from knowing you're already stamped as chosen. You've walked through the proving ground, you've endured the hardest test, and heaven's announcement over your life is clear. You already won. So let this truth sink deep. The restlessness, the second guessing, the anxiety that keeps you waiting for the next battle, those are echoes of an old war. They don't belong to you anymore. What belongs to you now is peace. What belongs to you now is freedom. What belongs to you now is the kind of rest that doesn't mean laziness, but stability. The kind of rest that comes when you know the foundation beneath you will hold, because it will, because it already has. So the next time your mind tries to drag you back into the panic of the past, remind yourself that war ended, the record is sealed, the verdict is victory, and heaven's announcement never lies. Please know rest is not weakness, my dear friend. Rest is what strength looks like once the war is over. You've lived so long with tension in your body, bracing for the next problem, the next disappointment, the next betrayal. And that posture became normal, so normal that even now, with the hardest battles behind you, your mind keeps scanning for threats that aren't there anymore. But God is saying, you don't have to live like that anymore. You're safe to rest now. Rest is not doing nothing. Rest is living without fear that everything will collapse if you pause. Rest is letting go of the weight you've already carried past the finish line. Rest is trust in motion. Think about it. When someone finishes a marathon, no one questions if they deserve to sit down. No one accuses them of being lazy for catching their breath. Why? Because the effort is undeniable. The proof of what they carried is written into every step of their stride. That's you. You've already run the distance others didn't believe you could. You've already outlasted storms that were designed to drain you. You've already proven, simply by being here, that your endurance is unmatched. So rest isn't optional anymore. It's required. It's what makes you ready for what's next. This is the shift you need to allow yourself to make. You are not in constant danger. You are not one mistake away from losing everything. You are not living under a curse of exhaustion anymore. The fight tried to teach you that survival had to be your identity, but heaven is teaching you that rest is now your inheritance. And when you live in that rest, it changes how you move. You start to notice that you don't need to rush into proving yourself. The right things come towards you without you clawing for them. You stop chasing after voices that never understood you. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Because rest silences desperation. And desperation was the last chain trying to keep you bound. So let yourself settle into it. Rest doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you give up responsibility. It means you're no longer ruled by fear. You no longer believe that everything depends on you running harder, trying more, stretching thinner. It means you're finally letting God carry what He wanted to carry all along. And isn't that what He promised? Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. That's not poetry, that's covenant. Your rest is part of the reward. The same way a soldier doesn't fight forever, the same way a farmer doesn't plow endlessly without harvest. You are not meant to live in constant battle. You're meant to live in cycles. Yes, there are seasons of effort, but there are also seasons of receiving. This is one of them. So take notice of how God is already inviting you into it. The moments of stillness that feel less like emptiness and more like fullness. The peace that doesn't make sense but refuses to leave your side. And listen, it's okay if it feels unfamiliar. When you've been wired for survival, even joy can feel suspicious. Even quiet can feel threatening. Even love can feel too good to be true. But that's only because your nervous system hasn't caught up to your spirit yet. Heaven already declared it. The battle is over. Now your body and mind are learning to live like it. So be gentle with yourself. Practice resting like you practiced fighting. Practice receiving like you practiced persevering. And soon you'll see that rest doesn't make you soft. It makes you sharp, because you think clearer when you're not exhausted. You love deeper when you're not running on fumes. You build stronger when you're not repairing yourself every other step. That's why God is insisting on this shift. He's not just giving you a break. He's giving you sustainability. He's showing you that His blessing isn't supposed to come at the price of burnout. His love isn't supposed to feel like another war. This rest is holy. It's restoration. It's God's way of saying, you've done the impossible. Now breathe. I'll take it from here. So let this truth cover you like a blanket today. You are not falling behind by resting. You're not losing momentum by catching your breath. You're not wasting time by being still. You are aligning with the very rhythm of heaven, because heaven never asked you to carry it all forever. Heaven asked you to trust, and trust at its deepest level looks like rest. So close your eyes tonight without guilt. Exhale without fear. Smile without waiting for something to go wrong. Because this time, it won't. The verdict is victory. The invitation is rest. And both belong to you now. When a word like this lands, your spirit wants to stay in the presence of it. That's why I made Simplified Serenity, a channel with music I've created for prayer, meditation, and deep rest. The link's in the description. I'd love to see you there.